I'm Mike Cecere, Director of Client and Talent Experience here at Protus Global.
I'm Michael Bitar, partner at Protus Global, and today we're going to talk about internal equity, specifically the internal equity dynamics as you're hiring from an outside perspective and bringing talent into your company. So, Tree, this is a hot topic, isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a topic I'm excited to talk to you about as a professional and as a leader, and I think you'll be able to provide some really good insight.
No, absolutely. I think where I'd like to start the conversation is that the pandemic has accelerated a lot of things in the consumer goods industry and in the talent industry overall. One of the dynamics that it's really affected is compensation. And so what we have seen, or what I have seen, and I think you can probably build on this, is that a lot of our client companies of small size and of a larger proportion have utilized a lot of institutional data from a compensation perspective to set their salary ranges historically.
Absolutely.
And it's provided pretty good insight for them.
Yep.
And pretty good direction. And with some of the compensation dynamics that have happened so quickly and accelerated in the marketplace, those institutional data points have become outdated very quickly. So when going external to hire, our clients, I think, have noticed that, wow, the comp model for this manager level or senior manager level or director level position is a little higher than we thought, and it's creating some internal equity dynamics. Is that what you've seen?
Absolutely. Actually, that's a good point. What I'm seeing now is clients looking for talent for X amount of compensation, and they're off target. Meaning, to your point, they're looking at data and assuming that this is accurate.
It's always been a dynamic. Internal equity and what a current team member inside of an organization is making versus somebody that you're going to bring in externally to do the same job, and whether you're going to compensate them the same or different has always been a very sensitive topic and something that companies try to do a good job of keeping it in balance.
Right.
And definitely pre-pandemic, there has been a cycle of those individuals that are in organizations for 2 or 3 or 4 years and then are consistently making moves have been higher on the compensation scale. Those that have 10, 15, 20-year tenures in the same organization are clearly rewarding their employer with their loyalty, and the employer is providing a good compensation and benefit package. But the people that have been moving more consistently are compensated at a higher rate.
Right.
So in a real sense, are you really truly being rewarded for that loyalty with your employer or not? And what we've seen is we've seen tenures in full-time employees drop and become shorter.
Yep.
And we've seen these compensation numbers start to go up. So I think the question that's really important to address is, what should companies do about it? Have you seen any trends with some of our client companies that are working well on this topic of how to handle internal equity?
I think the dynamic is somewhat new in these 10 years being reduced, right? So what once used to be 5 to 10 years is now 2 to 5. And it's directly related to that comp piece. The candidates, potential hires can see very easily and hear very easily in the industry just by having a conversation that compensations are higher. And so it's an interesting dynamic, because I believe that it is now at this very moment where hiring managers are starting to realize, okay, I want to go back to that 5 to 10 year tenure. How do I get there? And the reality of it is they're going to have to acknowledge the fact that the individuals that they're paying, that they hired 5 years ago, whether they're telling you or not, or whether they're happy or not, they know. We know. If they're in the industry, they know the dynamic. They understand the data. They know what other people are making in the industry, and so they'll have they'll be looking over their shoulder, and open to have conversations.
I agree with that. I think the other thing that companies, and I'm talking about companies of all sizes now, one, be very honest with themselves. Are we an organization that is able and willing to train? And some companies are, and some companies are not. And there's not a right or wrong answer to these questions. I just think there's a bit of a self-assessment that has to go on. And so, are you a training organization, or are you willing to become a training organization? And if the answer to that those questions are yes, then you can hire talent that is not quite at the level that you need them to ultimately be, but they have, I don't know, whatever, 75, 80% of the skills and the experiences you need for that role, and then you can develop them and close whatever gaps that you have. Many organizations today, at least from my perspective, have been very honest in saying, we're not a training organization. Right. We've not invested in training. We used to, we've decided not to anymore, and we're going to acquire talent that is plug and play. I mean, we hear that all the time.
That's it,
right? When they come to an outside agency to fill roles, they want plug and play talent that is going to make a difference in their organization.
Yep.
I think that's great, but if you take that, and on the other side, on the compensation side, if they are very open about we're paying at the 50 percentile level, that's average, right? We're paying average for this role in our geography. We're not above, we're not below. But now you want to hire plug and play talent, that means that you're going to go get somebody from an organization that's doing the role right now at a really high level, and to get them to move, compensation increase is part of it, different type of challenge, different type of product. So it's not all about compensation, but you're not going to get a plug and play talent that's going to come for a 50 percentile number.
Right.
They're probably slightly above 50 percentile already,
right.
And then get them to come, it's another 10, 15, or 20%.
Right.
Now, what do you do with your internal talent that is also performing at a high level? You're just adding to it, you're not replacing that individual. That's the dynamic where I think organizations have to be honest with themselves. And I don't know off the top of your head, when we're talking to organizations, our clients or prospective clients, how many of them are realistic on that topic?
No, you're absolutely right. Majority want that plug and play, hit the ground running, make an impact within the first 30 days. And those individuals are either happy in their current role, and even those that are not motivated by compensation, those that are motivated by, maybe having a hybrid opportunity or working remote or flexibility on travel. Even those individuals, they're not likely to make that lateral move. They're not willing to make that lateral move, and really, they're looking for at least a 10% increase. That person stays in a role for 3 years, gets a 10% bonus, steps into another role in another 2 to 3 years, another 10% on top of their base. So that dynamic with the external hires, as it relates to people already in the organization that are loyal, the self-assessment should also include, what do we need to do to ensure that the talent we have stays with us and stays loyal?
No, well, I think that's another key component. So I think you can almost answer this question and kind of wrap this topic up this way. I think you can also almost answer the question of what do we do with the internal talent the same way that you're looking at what do we do, how do we attract the plug and play talent externally? And the way to do that is, the institutional compensation data that used to be really, really valuable, that value has diminished. It clearly has, because things are changing so quickly. So how do companies get their hands on real-time information to make real-time business decisions externally for those hires, and also how to take care of their internal talent so they're not waiting for, Sally to come and ask for a raise, but they can go to Sally proactively and say, look, you're our national account manager on the mass channel, and you've done an outstanding job for the last 5 years, and you're being compensated X. And we've done some analysis, and we realized that in your role today, it's actually worth X plus whatever. Right. And we're going to come to you, great job. Here's your career pathing track. Here's where you can go, 2, 3, 4 years down the road. But today, in your current role, not changing your role at all, here's a raise that's not a 3 or 4% annual merit, but it's commensurate with what the marketplace is. If they do that, right, and profit and P&Ls and budgets have, these companies have to be profitable to continue to maintain the flow of business and new product development that they all want to be able to provide. That same mentality, as they're looking at this plug and play talent, those two worlds will come together and work cohesively versus coming together and colliding like we've seen kind of been the historical issue.
Absolutely.
So how do companies get their hands on that real-time information? One of the ways is, go ahead.
Work with a retained search firm like Protus Global, and not to be cute, but the reality of it is that we're in the trenches. We're having conversations with clients and talent. We're educated on a daily basis. The compensation piece varies greatly from state to state, from industry to industry. I mean, within CPG, it's a pretty even keel, but that even keel, I think, is higher than it has been, and you got to talk to individuals that are really in the trenches, really understand the space, rather than looking at documents from 2020, 2022, because it's just obsolete.
That search work that is going on to fill the role can be information that then allows you to have a proactive conversation with your internal talent that is performing at or above expectations.
Right.